Hello everybody and welcome to Maelle and Richard Cook, and hello from me, that's right, hello me. Okay, today we're going to be looking at choux pastry and all things choux. We're going to be starting out by making a basic choux pastry. We will then make a pastry cream, a crème pâtissière, and we will be baking éclairs, choux buns, and what the French call gougères, which are choux buns with cheese on the top. So, Maelle, in the pan in front of us, we've got 150 mils of water and we've got 50 grams of butter. And in the two bowls, we've got 2 eggs and 60 grams of flour with a pinch of salt inside. What we need to do is we need to bring the water to the boil to melt the butter, but we need to be careful not to leave it to boil, so we lose some of the water. And as soon as it comes up and the butter is melted, we're going to stir the flour in and work the mix so that it goes smooth and glossy. So, can you turn the hob on? Now we just need to turn that down a bit now because we don't want the water to boil. Because if it allows to boil, if we allow it to boil too much, then we lose some of the water and we change the consistency of the pastry. It's really important that we follow these steps because in pastry making, unless you absolutely follow each of the steps, then it will not work. And when all of the butter has melted, we're going to leave the heat going and we're going to just tip all the flour into it and we're going to work it with our wooden spoon. All right? And we're just about getting there. So, and I will hold the pan for you.
Okay, should I pour this in?
Yep, please, if you would. Now it's boiling, so tip it all in, all at once. Right, lovely. Now you need to get in there with your spoon and really start to work it. Right, and this is the part where if you can do it by hand or you can do it with an electric mixer. We beat the lumps out of it. And can you see how it's smoothing out now? And you continue to leave it on a low heat so that it continues to cook the flour. And unless the flour is cooked out and you've got a nice smooth paste, you'll find that your choux pastry will not work particularly well. And we work it like this until it goes smooth and shiny.
It's a bit stretchy.
And it starts to come away from the edges.
It smells of potato.
Well, that's disappointing because we haven't put any potatoes into it. Right? Right, and it's a good idea not to make too much of this at any one time because there's enough here to make around about 30 small choux buns because it is much harder to work in larger quantities. Right?
It feels like, it doesn't feel sticky, it feels like kind of smooth.
Yeah. Now, you've made a good point here because it is slightly elastic because the flour that we've used is strong flour, right? The same bread flour that we used when we made bread the other week. Right, because what it does, it gives them a nice structure and more particularly it gives you a nice crisp finish when we end up piping them out. If you want to scrape that into the bowl, and we're going to leave that now to cool because the next stage is we're going to beat egg into it, because if we beat the egg into it now, the egg will cook, and that's what we want, what we need to avoid. Right? The egg helps set it and gives it the structure in the oven, but the thing that makes it rise in the oven is the steam inside from the water that we put into the mix. All right? Okay, so we have now got to the choux pastry part 2, and this is where the magic begins. The flour, the cooked flour and water mix has cooled down, and we're now going to beat the egg into it.
Okay,
right?
so, but it's not cold, it's still quite warm.
It's tepid, right?
Okay.
So it's warm enough so the butter's still melted, but it's not so hot that it's going to cook the egg when we try and beat it in, because that would be a bit of a disaster. Darling, yeah? Okay, so if you pick up the mixer, put it through the egg first of all, please, to break the egg up. Okay, good. Now, straight into our mix, lovely, and I'm going to put some egg in.
Hello there.
That's right. Can you see how it's now starting to come together, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and the rest of it? There you go, you're done. Marvellous. Can you see how the mixture's now changed? It's gone smooth and creamy. It's got a nice gloss to it. There's no split on it, i.e. where it's not mixed in properly, and there's no solid pieces. Right? And this is exactly what we're looking for. Okay. The next stage is that we're going to pipe it out onto baking sheets, but there is a but here. This is still slightly warm, right? And we can pipe it out, no problem at all, and it will work very well. But because it's still quite soft, the problem we might have is controlling the piping coming out of the bag, right? And this is a mix that we can make ahead of time. It's something that we can make earlier part of the day or the night before and put into a container in the fridge and then come back to it the next day. Right? So this is, again, something which we can pre-prepare. We now need to put or pipe our choux buns and éclairs. So if you want to start and tip and scrape that into there, into the piping bag. So we're going to pipe a mixture of choux buns and éclairs, and we are, on some of the choux buns, we're going to put some cheese on the top to change them into gougères. So we're going to squeeze it all down to the bottom. And then the next thing is I take my bag and I hold it between my thumb and forefinger and I twist it. And as you can see, more I twist it, more pressure it puts on the bag. And then I hold it like that and I squeeze by changing the pressure with those fingers. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so do you want to give that a go? Give that a go? Okay. So, and then when we're ready, somebody tells me you're a natural at this. Right, let's move those in. Now, when we pipe, don't put too much pressure on because that's going to come right in my direction, yeah? Oh. Don't point that loaded piping bag at me. So, when we pipe it, we're going to cut the end off, and we're going to cut the end off.
How big?
Quite big, actually, because it will enable us to control the way it. So we pipe like that. Okay, and then when we do choux buns, we do like that. Right. Try and leave the gap a little bit wider. That's good. How does that feel?
Scary.
Why?
Because I don't want to mess it up.
Oh, you're not messing it up. So we've piped all of our buns and éclairs out. Yeah. So we're going to put some cheese, grated cheese, on top of some of the buns. And it doesn't need much. It's just a little bit like that to melt on the top, yeah? And try and avoid getting it onto the tray because it might burn, so lovely. Okay, so we've preheated the oven to 190.
Yes.
And then we're going to put them in for 10 minutes and then we're going to increase the temperature to 210. All right?
Why?
Because we want to get some heat into them, right? And then push the heat up so that we get the expansion. We don't want the skin to form on the outside too quickly, so we just want to get a bit of warmth into them. If they get them in the oven too hot, then the top goes brown and crispy too soon, and you don't get the full.
So we've done 190 to 210.
190 to 210. All right. Okay. Okay. Right. So. Right, shall we get these out of the oven, please? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll give you this, because I probably can't do it one-handed without dropping it.
No.
They're like mini éclairs.
Right, let's turn the oven off.
Yummy.
I think those look pretty good. Just going to poke a little hole.
How is that not?
Just to let the steam out, because otherwise.
I don't get how you can touch that. My dad can do that as well.
I'll tell you what it is because I'm old and completely unsensitive, yes. I've got hands like rubber gloves these days. Put the cheese ones to one side.
Cheesy.
Cheesy ones. Can you smell them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. So really good.
Let's try one.
That one.
try?
Okay.
It's not too hot.
Do you want to try?
Oh, you break it in half. Let's share it between us, yeah?
We have to make it fair.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. It's nice, isn't it?
Really nice.
It is such a simple thing, but so nice. And it's because it's freshly baked.